to see yourself in this world. You have to see what is possible because someone went before you and you're bringing up someone behind you. Representation is critical.
Yeah. Okay, let's welcome Marty McDonald to Quality Queen Control.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, what an exciting episode that we have today. I want you to take me back. Like, who is Marty McDonald? What is the genesis of your story of how you got into the place that you're in right now?
Oh, listen, it is not, I would like to say, this one thing happened, but that's boring, right? So I am a girl from Tennessee who I like to say always knew more existed. I grew up in a single parent household. Hardship is not unfamiliar to me, but yet in spite of it, I always knew my North Star was going to be so bright. Not because I saw it, not because anyone gave me a blueprint for it, not because I had the right connections, not because I even knew what to do myself, but because I desired it. And I did all the quote unquote right things, right? I went to the right school. I went back to school and got my MBA. I got the job. And then I found myself sitting in corporate America thinking, this cannot be it, right? This cannot be what generational wealth looks like. This cannot be what freedom looks like. This cannot be the pathway for success for me. And it was simply because I didn't see myself. I didn't see myself sitting in spaces and places that I desired to be in. I didn't see anybody who came from where I came from sitting in spaces and places that I desired to be in. And because I didn't see myself, because it didn't fulfill my soul, because I knew that more existed, I made an exit December 1st, 2017 to go and bet on Marty. And what that looked like at the time was me creating a space where women could be resourced, women could see and hear their story, that it existed, that there more existed for them through a media company called Boss Women Media.
Wow. So what was your corporate job? What did that entail?
So my background was marketing. So product innovation, brand development, mainly in like the restaurant and CPG, consumer product good space were the breadth of my experience of working. But my actual degree, my bachelor's degree, was in interior design and architecture. And then I went back to school and got my MBA.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. We love an accomplished woman. Okay. So then speaking of, can you share your personal journey of how Boss Women Media and Elle Olivia came to life?
Yeah. Two very unique stories, two very unique journeys. But when I was sitting in corporate America, I remember I went to this event. And the event was so buttoned up. Everyone wore black and blue and gray. It was very corporate, right? And I remember sitting at this event just wanting to be myself so bad. And instead you just had to handshake and tell everybody what you did, right? And you had to lead with your title. And you never could lead with who you authentically was.
Yeah.
And because I just didn't want to play this game, I was like, man, there got to be something else, right? And it's crazy because at that time, it really didn't exist. This thing that I wanted so bad didn't exist anywhere. Fast forward, probably 6 months later, I ended up going to this conference that was more millennial based. And it definitely was not a space that looked like us. But I remember going into this environment and in this space, and it felt relaxed, but it felt accomplished. It felt free, but yet people were making deals, right? And I thought, what if this space existed for women who looked like me? And that was my first feeling and experience of this is the blueprint of what I want to go create. And I want to go create it for our community. And so that was what I was marching against when I was building Boss Women Media. That experience that I had. And I had compared it to the experience of Black, Blue, Gray. So at Boss Women Media, I make sure that we never wear black, blue, gray, right? Like I make sure that I'm creating an environment that you are welcome in, but most importantly, that you are seen in, because a lot of folks aren't seen and people want to be seen. Yeah. And so Boss Women Media welcomes you where you are today so that you are seen and you don't have to lead with your title. You're in a safe space. And as I knew that was kind of what I was building the origin from, right? That I knew that the DNA would be created from, we just kept building. But there was something that happened really instrumental in the middle of me having this. And I was working on a project sitting in corporate America. So I was building Boss and I was working. So it was my side hustle. I was working on a project sitting in corporate America. And I made a huge mistake on this project. And it was going out to I think 600 or 700 restaurants that I didn't spell check something from. And there was all of this point of sale material that was going out. And it was my fault, right? And I had to take responsibility for it. And as I held this weight of taking the responsibility for something that I did not really check with my eagle eye, I remember thinking, how many more times am I gonna accept how they make me feel if I don't do something according to their standards?
Right.
That was really what did they say, the straw that on the camel back, or whatever,
the straw that broke the camel's back.
And that's when I made my exit. When I made my exit, I was so on fire to prove them wrong. Now I'm my big age. I don't care about proving anybody wrong. But at that time and at that point in my career, I was so on fire to prove them wrong. So me and a friend went to a conference in LA called the Girl Boss Rally. At this conference, we met so many incredible people. It was such a good time. But I remember going into a breakout room where I met the CEO of a high-end confectionery company. And as she's sitting on a panel, she was sitting on the panel with probably 2 or 3 influencers that were really big influencers. And of course, after the panel's over, everybody runs up to the influencers to take the picture for the gram. But I didn't run up to the influencers because I could care less. I was trying to build something.
Yes.
And I go up to the CEO and I remember looking at her because she was on this panel talking about, we create taboo gummy bears. And I thought, man, she could create a gummy bear called Black Girl Magic. And I will help her bring a community of women to her stores through this gummy bear. And I had just read this Nielsen data report because my background was marketing and corporate. And I would always lead with data if I was pitching inside of my corporation. So I went up to her afterwards and I said, hey, do you know what Black Girl Magic is? And this is in 2018.
Wow.
You don't even, nobody's saying Black Girl Magic out loud. It almost is this taboo thing.
Yeah.
And she responds to me and says, can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? And I said, listen, Black Girl Magic is a buying power. It is a rallying call and a buying power of women who are not being seen or spoken to right now. And there is a missed opportunity on your bottom line that you are not fulfilling by not speaking to her. We should create a gummy bear together called Black Girl Magic. And this gummy bear, we're going to have my community of women come to your stores and we're going to do experiences around it. And this lady goes, she was so intrigued, but so cautious. And then she was like, who is this girl? What is she? What in the world? But I was so bold. I was so audacious. And I had nothing to lose because I had so much to prove.
Wow.
And she goes, send me an email. And it was contact It was like some generic email. And I got on the airplane back home and I said, I'm going to send her an email. And that email was the pitch deck that literally changed everything about my business. I sent her an email. I created a pitch deck. I mapped out the whole process. It took her 6 weeks to respond to me.
Wow.
When she responded to me 6 weeks later, she approved for us to do a 5-city tour called the Black Girl Magic Tour. And I popped up in 5 different cities across the U.S. That 5-city tour ended up being a beta case for me because I took all of my learnings, all of the data, and it was such an incredible experience. And I pitched it to a financial service institute that then led me to gaining my first 6-figure deal by me saying, I did a 5-city tour. These were the learnings, and you guys should come with me, and we should do a 7-city tour, and we should do this. And I had that experience to be able to go and share to get more opportunity. But if I had have never done it, if I had have sat there on my idea, if I didn't stand up and be bold, if I didn't believe in myself, if I got discouraged when I got that generic email, if I, right? Then none of it would be, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. And so that is the origin story of Boss Women Media.
Oh my gosh. I am in absolute awe by that because, and we'll get into your book a little bit later, but again, that is like audacity right there, especially in a world where as women, we are honestly really told to shrink ourselves. Don't speak up. Don't be too loud. Don't be this. And it's like, wow, you went for it. That is like very inspiring to me because I often find myself sometimes like, I have such an outgoing personality, but I find that like I sometimes like want to shrink if someone's like, oh, like, what do you do? And I'm just like a little shy and nervous. And I'm like, what is this that's coming up that I feel like I can't just go for it and be audacious, even if I'm not familiar with a certain, you know, job or community. You have to ask questions, you know, you have to really like advocate for yourself because who else will, you know, do that for you. And so one of the things that I also notice is that a lot of the people that have built like strong brand awareness and companies all have like a background in marketing and things like that. Would you say that that is something that has significantly helped you as you were acquiring all this business acumen and navigating through the journey of creating Boss Women Media?
You know, I would say yes, and right. Yes, it helped me visualize and tell the story. The biggest takeaway that I got from corporate America, whether I was sitting in marketing or operations or accounting, whatever area you're sitting in, you have to pitch people ideas, whether that's to use a new solution if you're in accounting, right? Or to pitch to do this new product if you're in marketing, right? That was what I learned from corporate America. I learned how to bring people along to my story. I learned how to bring people along to doing what I needed them to do. I learned how to bring people along in a cross-functional, collaborative manner that helped them see the bigger picture. And that was a skill that was invaluable for my business, 1000%. So whether I was sitting in marketing or whatever, right? I've always been a creative naturally, but I'm one of these like unicorn creatives. I'm a creative and I execute. And most don't go together, right? Like normally creatives sit on the ideas. No, if I get an idea, I'm definitely like, oh no, we're doing this today. Let's go, right? Type of person. So that's what I'll say. That's what I would say. I would say I've learned how to storytell in some of the most powerful ways where folks don't see me first. They see themselves first. And that helps galvanize people into taking the project on, doing the thing, etc.
That's amazing. And I think there's also so much power in collaboration, right? I think that's something that, I mean, I guess even in the influencing space, I remember growing up, the early influencers, a lot of them would collaborate with each other. But then there seemed to be this negative connotation around collaborating because it was kind of viewed as like, oh, clout chasing, or you don't want someone to feel like they put you onto something. And I think that negative stereotype or stigma it honestly does more harm than anything, because no man is an island, and there's always a skill set that someone else possesses, and when you play to your strengths, there is so much power in collaboration, because you know what you're bringing and you know what those other individuals are bringing.
Yeah.
And so you talk a lot about betting on yourself.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you in your most uncertain moments? Because in business, it's not always just linear, you know, there's ups and there's downs. So talk to me about certain struggles that you faced and how you had that resilience to just keep on showing up and betting on yourself.
Yeah. You know, I've always had an incredible vision for what I'm building, right? And I can't unsee it, right? But even in the moments when it does feel a little cloudy, there's a whisper that goes alongside me. And I know that that is God that says, just keep going, Marty. Just trust me in this, right? When I don't know where the funds are going to come from, when I don't know where the people are going to come, because I'm popping up in a whole new city that I don't necessarily know all the folks. When I first started that 5-city tour, we did New York, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, and LA. I had built a community in Dallas, and that was it. I didn't have a community in LA, but LA was packed to the brim. It was people standing on the outside of LA, right? All I heard the whisper was, keep going. Keep going with your roll-up banner and your suitcase and your balloon guy and your social media girl. Keep going when you don't know all of the things that are going to happen, right? Keep going when it feels really hard and you just want to give up because you're tired and you just actually need to take a break instead. Keep going, right? And so that's what betting on yourself looks like. It looks like continuing on the journey regardless if you got it all figured out or not.
Yeah.
And so that's the encouragement I want to give to women, to men, to anybody, that if you believe it, all you need to do is just keep going. I wear these bracelets, these mantra bands, and one of them says, just keep swimming. And I believe that that's just what I'm doing, right? And right now, my life look real different at home. So not only do I have a business that's 7 years old, right? I have a 4-year-old and I have twins that are 20 months old. And my life is full and it is busy. And all I'm hearing right now was God told me, even though I'm tired. Now I've been city hopping. I was in Charlotte last week. I'm in Chicago in another week. All right. I'm like, all I keep hearing him say is, Marty, just keep going. The fruits of your labor are going to pay off for you. I just need you to know that you just need to keep going. And just because I've been doing it for some time doesn't mean I don't need the encouragement either, to know that, you know, that there is a reward at the end. That my cup will run over, that exceedingly abundantly above all exists for me. But to that person, just keep going. Once you have your vision, that is all you need. Don't talk about it. Don't write it down no more in your notebook. Don't take no more notes on it, right? Don't ask 10 more friends about it. You don't need to do any of those things. You just need to take one step forward.
And keep going. Yeah. Would you say also in that collaboration that you did with Black Girl Magic gummies, that when you received that yes, were you like, oh man, crap, now I really got to execute. Like, how am I going to keep this going? Was there any part of you that felt like that?
Heck yes. Man, what? She said yes, but I still had to fund it. She gave me her space, We did the gummy bear together, but I still had to get to 5 cities. I hired PR in 5 cities. I hired speakers in 5 cities because we took her store over and basically did breakout panels and sessions that entire day. I hired influencers in all of those 5 cities. So 1000%. I didn't know, but along me not knowing is where the beauty comes into place. Mm-hmm. That's where this thing that I am so connected to happens. The miraculous works, mm-hmm. right? It's like, are you God, or are you moving off of the vision that he gave you?
Ooh.
And for me, I have to check myself all the time. I am not God. I am moving off of the vision that God has for me.
Amen.
And so the vision that God has for me, unfortunately, sometimes it don't tell you every step to take from A, B, C, D.
Right.
And sometimes you have to go from A to G and you don't hear nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to keep going, mm-hmm. right? So, girl, what? Self-doubt? Yes, been there, lived on that street. Don't want those lessons no more, right? Not knowing, fear. Psh, what? Mm-hmm. Fear don't go away. It just gets bigger and it escalates in a different way as you evolve. And you know how to deal with the fears that may have tried to hold you. My past fears or my childhood fears. Okay, I know how to handle you now, right? But the fears of growing an 8-figure business, that's totally different, right? Yeah. And so you have to evolve with all of it. You have to keep moving in all of it. And you have to know that I don't have know all of the answers. I hate the entrepreneurs who, especially right now, are take this posture like they have it all figured out, and they don't leave room for any type of miraculous work to happen. Ooh, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's actually a myth. They're lying. And if you're seeing entrepreneurs like that show up, run away from them. I wouldn't take advice from them because they're not telling the truth about this whole story. This is hard. Building anything from scratch is incredibly difficult, but your mindset has to be stronger than the challenge that is in front of you.
Wow. I love that. And even in regards to, let's just say, capital. So you landed that 6-figure deal, and moving forward from that, was that 6 figures what went in your pocket, or was that 6 figures, okay, I'm giving you this budget of 6 figures. Now you need to allocate this and create something from it. Yeah. What does that look like in terms of that business model?
Yeah. So, when we first started, from the perspective of organizations would pay for the programs that we would develop for them, right? Mm-hmm. So whether that was a tour, a summit, right? They were our sponsors for it, right? And so everything still has to get paid. Everything. So that, no, I'm not taking home 6 figures by any means, mm-hmm. right? It's going to the company and the organization to essentially develop what we agreed to in the contract, right? Mm-hmm. And if it costs more than 6 figures, guess who's responsible for it? Me. I'm still responsible for, no matter what the cost is, to deliver what I told them I was going to deliver upon. So say a company gives you a check for $50,000, but it actually costs $75,000, right? But they're one sponsor. They gave you one check, right? And if you didn't sign an agreement with them that that they're not only the only sponsor, the only sponsor that can be a part of it, it's your job to go and get other partners or sell tickets or find different ways to build the revenue stream out, mm-hmm. and what you're going to deliver. But oh, by the way, if I don't deliver what I say, I got to give that $50,000 back. Mm-hmm. Then I have no money. Then it's zero, or I'm in a deficit, right? Yeah. And so, girl, the lessons that I have learned around how much things cost, the times in which I've said it would cost this, but it actually cost this, and I've eaten, right? in order to save face, in order to continue to build the brand, in order to continue to serve the community. And in all of that, I've been so clear with this message of not capitalizing off of my community. So most of our programs that we do, our community has experienced over the last 7 years at either a free cost or a very low price. And so that's helped us build the community, of course. And me saying, you know what, I am going to go after the corporations that want to deliver this type of programming to our community, for it to be on their backs to make sure that they have the revenue given to us to be able to put that forth.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Wow. Okay. And how can someone actually start to build, confidence, even when they're facing fear or even self-doubt, throughout navigating being a boss woman?
One of my most proven confidence building skills that I love to share with other women, especially when they come out of a toxic environment, an environment that they may have felt like an imposter in, an environment that didn't affirm them, or an environment that really condemned them in a lot of ways. I love to tell them to go get in an environment where it might be a volunteer service base, whether that's a shelter or your church or a local organization. And the skill that is your superpower, lean that into them.
Wow.
So for me, when I first started, it was me leaning into my church and helping serve the women's ministry at my church. Because I had come from this environment in corporate that in a lot of ways had broken me, right? Of me thinking I'm not good enough, should I be here, et cetera, et cetera. When I did that, and everything I did in that environment, it was so good to them. It was so great, and it was so great for them. It was an added value for them. They began to affirm me in it. And with that affirmation, that allowed my confidence muscle to flex. It was like I was exercising my confidence every single day. And then when I would go out into a corporation and I pitched my idea, right? And they said no, I still I didn't wither up and die, because I had placed myself in an environment where I could be affirmed, that really kind of built me back up to face all of the no's that will be out there, that it's inevitable that we will face. And so I would say that is such a key strategy in how someone can build their confidence levels up. Place yourself in an environment that will affirm you for a season.
I love that. Wow. So what mistakes do you feel like you see people making when they are trying to brand themselves or even pitch their ideas?
I think the number one thing that people do when they're trying to pitch their ideas is they make it about them. Right? They never put the other company's logo. They have their logo on everything, right? They didn't take the time out to really tell the full story or show the whole scope of work, right? They led with them first, and they never asked what the company's goals and objectives are. They don't even know how they align to what they're being pitched in front of. And so the best way to combat that is when you are pitching yourself or a brand that you're building, and you're in conversation with another brand, the number one question you need to ask them is, what are your goals and objectives for the year? Before you go out and start talking about what you want to do, right? Nobody cares what you want to do. These companies want to know, how can they move their bottom line?
Right.
Period. That is it. And if you can help solve for how they can move their bottom line or make the community impact that they need to make, or whatever, if it hits and aligns with their mission and their values, that's where you need to lead when you're pitching your ideas.
Wow. So then leaning more into the power of the pitch, right? First of all, getting your brand into Target is huge. Okay, congratulations. Can you actually walk us through what that pitch process looked like?
Okay. So I shared my origin story of Boss Women Media, but I didn't share it with Elle Olivia. So Elle Olivia's origin story goes like this. I get pregnant with my first daughter in 2020. Me and my husband had been having a couple of miscarriages before. So it was such a really interesting time to be pregnant in the isolation of a pandemic. And when I was 24 weeks pregnant, I got diagnosed with something. Elle did, my daughter, got diagnosed with something during my pregnancy called congenital diaphragmatic hernia, which basically meant that Elle's spleen, her liver, and her intestines were in her chest, covering her lungs. And her lungs were not able to fully develop. And that we would have to have a surgery to move everything in its right place if she was healthy enough when she would be born, which then led me to having to change where we were going to deliver her at. And so instead of delivering her at the private hospital that I expected, we ended up having to deliver her at the county hospital. And that county hospital comes with all the stigmas that our community faces. And it was such a slap in my face and an awakening all at the same time of, are you living in a bubble? It's people who are experiencing life out here. And just because you've not experienced it in that manner in such some time doesn't mean it doesn't still exist.
Right.
So when I would go to the hospital, I would get questions like, are you on welfare? Are you married? Are you on food stamps? And I was just like so taken back I was so taken back. I just thought it was so offensive. I thought I'm pregnant, right? But it was just a part of the system. And so we ended up delivering at that county hospital because it was connected to the children's hospital, and it would be safer for her to deliver there than for her to be life flighted because they did not know how healthy she would be. But fortunately, she ended up crying when she was born, which meant that her lungs actually did work. And 3 days later, after she was born, we had a surgery to move everything in its right place. And then we stayed in the NICU for 35 days. That NICU experience was something that really left a scar, and I think will forever have a scar on me, of the disparities that happen in the healthcare system. And I quickly learned what my purpose was supposed to be as her mom. And as I went to that NICU every single day for 35 days, I spent the night at home one night that entire 35-day period. I slept in a hospital chair right after delivering a baby vaginally, right?
Wow.
And that NICU experience taught me how important representation is.
Yes.
And we say it, and we live in a world right now where it's such a climax of it all, but it is so important. Girl, you have to see yourself in this world. You have to see what is possible because someone went before you, and you're bringing up someone behind you. Representation is critical.
Yeah.
It is a strategy, right? It is a strategy in how I am raising my children. And so when we looked around that hospital, nobody looked like us. And that threw me in so many ways. There were people of color there, but there was no one who looked like me and my family.
Right.
Or there was no one in leadership that looked like me and my family either. And I thought, well, then they don't know the challenges. And this is why they're asking these questions. And I'm just thinking of all of the ways in which to solve this. And the other lesson that I learned while I was there was that advocating yourself is a unique tool that we all need. And some of us just do not know how to.
Right.
And so every day when they would do rounds, I was standing there okay, well, we're at Elle's chart. Let's talk about Elle's progress today.
Yep.
And I was the voice for Elle. And I told them Elle don't need to be on fentanyl anymore. And and it was me. And I had to pull that up outside of me because I had just delivered this child. Right. And so I knew that was my marching orders for her. That was what I'm supposed to give her. I'm supposed to make sure she sees herself in this world. She needs to know everything is possible for herself. And that most importantly, she has to know how to advocate for herself because mom and dad are not always going to be there. And so when we left the NICU, I was kind of yearning to do something more. I didn't really know what it was until one day. It's probably 6-7 months later, I go into Target. And I remember looking for something that had a character on it or that was representative of what my daughter looked like. And I didn't see it. And I left Target that day, not upset, not discouraged, but very much so sure that this is exactly what you're going to go create. And so I got to working immediately. Again, I am that girl. I get the idea. I see the vision and I execute. And so I started working on it and we launched the brand about 6 months later. And when we did the launch, I hired 2 mom influencers and their daughters. I made a huge investment for this launch and I ended up sending a cold pitch email to Target saying, hey, I just launched this brand. I just did this campaign. You guys should consider me to come on your floor because there are moms who seek to shop with intentionality. Those were the exact words that I use, who are not being served that would love to be served in this manner. And they responded back to me. And it really was there. I can't sit here and say that there was anything but that. And they responded back to me. And we were awarded 400 Target stores to go into.
Unbelievable. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You're like the pitching queen. Okay. So what about handling rejection? During the pitching process? Like, what does that look like? Because yes, you will endure a lot of no's and then there are some yeses. Have you ever encountered that personally?
What?
So how did you navigate that?
My God. I think that once you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, there are a million different ways to get it done. And you just have to know that because someone says no, could either mean a couple of things. No, not right now. All right. Go and ask them why they said no. Don't leave it at the no. Go and probe. Find out, why is this not in alignment to what you said that you want to accomplish? Is it budget? Is it timing? Is it goals and objectives? Is it the climate that we live in? Like, go and find out more information. As they're gathering the information to give to you, then take that information and apply it to the next organization that you go after. Because when you apply their no to the next situation, then you're able to take your no and you're able to work it out in your favor. You're able to be flexible in it. You're able to change it to make it work for you, right? And so I think that that's how I look at the no's, right? There are a million ways to skin a cat.
Yes.
So how are you going to choose to do yours today, right?
Wow.
In the pitch, there are a million companies out here. There's so many companies out here. Just because one said no doesn't mean that they're going to say no forever, or it doesn't mean you can't take the information from their no and go apply it to someone else's potential yes.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. And so I want to step into the truth about entrepreneurship. What would you say is one thing about entrepreneurship that you wish that more people were honest about?
There's probably several things. So let me think of my one thing.
You can give a couple too if you want. Yeah.
I think that, well, number one, I think that most people think that if you're an entrepreneur, you're making a lot of money.
Okay, period.
And that is definitely not the case.
Yes.
That
right.
is definitely not the case.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, you're sacrificing so much.
Yeah.
You're sacrificing not only what you're trying to build, you're sacrificing your time.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to go get a job and to get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And you might have only done 25 hours of that job, but you still got that paycheck in the 2 week period of time.
Yeah.
When you are an entrepreneur, it does not work that way.
Right.
If you do not work, you do not eat.
Right.
And so I think that's a myth. But then I also think the other myth is that you have to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
There is a time when you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. I'm in a season where I am experiencing solace and silence and surrender and learning that hard work isn't going to be the thing to get me to the next level.
Wow.
I've done all the hard work. I done put all the sweat equity in. I done all the boots on the ground. I have done it. Your girl ain't afraid to work hard. Instead, this next season, hands off the wheel. It got to be all God.
Period.
And so I think that that's also another myth. People think if you work hard, you're going to be successful. No.
Right.
That's not true either.
I just felt that so much because when I was going to North Carolina, I just felt like God gave me this revelation of like, there is no way to like try and manipulate, not in a negative way, but try to like earn and work so hard for God's favor. Whatever he's going to do in your life, he's going to do regardless. And I think sometimes it's confusing because you're trying to actually navigate, all right, what does faith without works is dead mean? And how do I balance that with actually, letting God be God? You know what I mean? Do I continue to pursue this in the way that I should and work so hard? I feel so burnt out. I feel so stressed out. Or do I sit there and do nothing and then let God just do whatever he has to do? You know what I mean? So I think people get confused on like, there has to be a balance in everything, but there's just no way that you can, manipulate certain doors to open. Even if you can, it's not going to be as sustainable because the divine doors that God has open for you, it's going to come effortlessly. When you think about the things that maybe have come effortlessly into your life, it's always like the most divine opportunities that you did the least work for.
Absolutely.
And I had that revelation, to myself, and I'm like, wow, that gave me so much peace and solace. And I would even say for myself, honestly, like I am in a complete rebrand in my life. Like I am learning a lot, unlearning a lot, really just acquiring a lot of business acumen, like we were talking about previously, and clarity and messaging is what I'm really leaning on God, and also my network of resources. Like, okay, God, how do I show up? What is your opinion on this? Based off your expertise, and I trust your, advisement based off of that, and really just leaning into like who God has surrounded me around, and utilizing that network. And yeah, so that really, really resonated with me. So
I think about the widower in the Bible, right? The widower, she was in a bad situation. She owed some folks some money, right? Her husband had died. He had made some promises that he couldn't necessarily keep. She had her sons, right? And she didn't think she had anything. But then a prophet came to her and said to use the oil. And when you pour the oil, it's not going to run out.
Wow.
And she used what she had, right? Like she built a team. Her kids were her team, right? She didn't do it all by herself. And then she trusted. And I think about that because the widower was at wit's end. Man, she was scared. I can't imagine. Her husband had died. She had these kids. She had these bills, right? Like, she didn't know what to do next, right? And then she got a message and she started pouring, right? And she didn't work hard after she started pouring.
Wow.
She just was obedient.
Mm.
And she knew how to manage her team. And everybody was on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wanted her to win. And I think about that story because I'm like, sometimes you don't have to know. But if you trust that God knows and that it's in his hand, then do that. And it won't be hard.
Yeah, I love that so much. Just to even backtrack a little bit, right? Building a community, it's definitely not an easy task. And what would you kind of say the early days of building Boss Woman Media was like as far as building that community? Because did you have a prior like social media presence?
No.
Okay. So let's get into that.
Not at all. Not at all. When I first started Instagram, it was Boss Woman Media Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no, not at all. I built it. I remember our first event. This had to have been 2016, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
25 women showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the perfect amount of women to be in that space. Those 25 women, right? And they connected with each other. And I remember at that time thinking, oh, only 25 women. I just want so much more.
Yeah.
Right? And now I think about it. Those 25 people that were in that room, they were seen, they were heard, they connected. That's all that they needed. Are you doing it for you or are you doing it for them?
Wow.
Right? And if you're building community for you, you are always going to fall short. But if you're building community for them, it doesn't matter if one person was impacted, then you did your job.
Yeah. Wow. That was so powerful. So how do you balance building a thriving business with personal growth and self-care? Because it's so easy to neglect yourself in this process, because as you were building, I personally think you are trading a lot of the times time for money sometimes, especially in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that?
Probably about, let's say, 4 years into it, I got a performance coach.
What?
And it was the best investment that I've ever spent on myself. So right after I had my first daughter, my brain felt really foggy. I couldn't break through. Nothing felt really clear. I was pushing, but I was telling myself kind of this weird story.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having this performance coach, and I deliberately got someone I didn't want her to look like me.
Right.
Because I didn't want us to have a pity party together.
Right.
But I did need her to be a Christian. That was because that's how I move.
Right.
And my husband actually found her for me. He was like, I found someone. You need to go talk to her. It was a huge investment. I think I spent like $8,000 to have sessions, like 4 or 5 sessions with her. And on our first call, it was like instant breakthrough. She's like, tell me the story you're telling yourself. I'm like, they never will because I'm a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I didn't really know I was really telling myself that story. I just thought that was my obstacle.
Right. Oh.
And she goes, okay, well, go find people who want to work with you because you are a Black woman. And it was like everything shifted. It was like someone gave me permission to be who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then it allowed everything to open up. And that was my first 7-figure year.
What is a performance coach?
Okay. So a performance coach is, they have life coaches.
Yeah.
She focuses on mindset.
Mm-hmm.
The stories, we all have a story. And some of our stories start when we were 6 and 7 that we've told ourselves, right? And if we talk a little longer, I'll know your story, right? Everybody has a story that they've told themselves. It is her job to help us shift that story for our good and not our bad.
Wow.
And she helps you really find, she helped me understand what my values were. Because I was like, I'm hustling. What am I hustling for? Because hustle is hard.
Yes.
Rick Ross said it right. Like, it is, right? And at some point, you're going to get burned out.
Yeah.
If you're not sure what your values are. And so she helped me lead with that. Everything I do, if it don't align with my values, I don't do it.
Period.
And my values are financial freedom, time with my family, influence, community building. Those are my values. Time alone also is a value of mine. I have to be in solitude with myself. I got to hear my thoughts. I got to feel how I'm feeling. I gotta experience it. Right. I don't need to feel numb, right? She helped me identify those values and how I lead my life with those values and the story that's working for me.
Wow. That's honestly, that is, I can totally relate to that, because I think even for myself too, I have to be at some point like in solitude. You're creating and executing. And it's like you need those moments of solitude. So moving the needle here, your book. Okay, congratulations on your new book.
Okay, hold on, pause. Nisha, can you grab the book out of the backpack? It's on the back part of the backpack, the back zipper. I want to show it too.
Oh my gosh, you have a copy of it?
Yes.
Because I know it's not even like, it's for pre-order.
It's just for pre-order. It's not out yet.
Do you only have one copy of it, or?
Yeah, I only have one.
No,
I have two. Oh, and this is like my prized possession. Oh, got messed up a little bit because we did a photo shoot with.
Oh my god!
I'm actually so excited because tomorrow I'm going to my publishing house here in New York.
Oh my god!
Friday, yeah. But yes, this is the book. The book artwork. I selected this artwork.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is my story.
Wow.
It's Audacious upside down.
Wow.
But it showcases, it's like you're on a journey up and down and up and down. And this is the journey that everybody has to be on if you want to create the life that you deserve. If you want the life that you know exists for you, you're going to go up and you're going to go down.
Yeah.
And you're going to go back up and you're going to go back down.
Yes.
Right? And that's a part of it, right? Nobody cares about the mountaintop moments. If you don't have any valley experiences.
That's right.
And so that's why I just love this artwork so much, because I felt like it just really defined my journey of what is inside of this book.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so what inspired you to write this book, and what can readers expect to learn?
Oh my God. So I wrote this book because this book, if I had it 10 years ago, would have set me so much further ahead.
Wow.
It is the book of setting a vision, telling yourself the right story, how you pitch your story, how do you position yourself. It is the book that encompasses so many lessons that I've learned in building this business for the last 7 years.
Wow.
It is the lesson of being a mother. It is the lesson of hardship. It is the lessons of continuing to go forth, even when you didn't know. And the most unexpected chapter is the last chapter of the book. I tell people, this is the framework. This is how you do your morning routine. This is how you envision your life. This is how you tell the story. This is how you pitch a brand or pitch for the next position, right? And then I end the book with a chapter called Surrender.
Wow.
Because once you've done everything that you physically know how to do, the last piece of acceleration is slowing down.
Wow.
And so that's what we end the book with.
And this book is called Audacious.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, like, honestly, I was immediately drawn to the title. Being a very outspoken person myself, being very you know, I am both extroverted and introverted, but I can work a crowd, you know? So I was so drawn to that title and I was like, I need this book, Audacious. I love that because audacity is everything, you know? So who would you even say that this book is written especially for? I know you mentioned the moms, but who else would benefit from reading the book?
This book, a college grad would do well reading this book. It is a blueprint for how they could maneuver their career. A startup entrepreneur, a woman or a man sitting in corporate America trying to figure out how to navigate. Anybody who wants and knows that life exists at a higher level for them needs to read this book.
Anyone who knows that life exists at a higher level for them needs to read this book, Audacity. Okay. And
Audacious.
Audacious. I'm sorry. You need to read the book, Audacious. I'm telling you guys, it's really going to be a blessing to you. And it is available for pre-order.
It's available for pre-order on all the sites. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart.
Everywhere.
Pre-order is so important too.
Okay.
Pre-order tells the stores this book is about to do well.
Okay.
The book doesn't come out till October, but if you have space and access and funds to pre-order the book, please support and pre-order the book today.
And I actually love that you explained that because people don't really know that. Even if you think about it on social media, people don't understand how much a like, which is free, and a share, how much it can move the needle for your content and for your business. So I'm really happy that you shared that. So for the closing final thought, I'm going to say, what is one piece of advice that you would leave for anyone that is listening who feels called to more, but they're scared to start?
For anybody who may just be sitting there thinking, man, I want more. First of all, I want you to surround yourself with some folks who also want the same desire. I think that's important. You cannot want more and be around people who don't even believe it's possible.
Period.
And so finding yourself a circle of folks, right? Finding yourself another organization to be a part of. Shameless plug, Boss Women Media, right? Like finding yourself a community, I think is critical in you even pushing forward to the existence. Because it's going to be hard. Like, get that out of your head. Who cares? Right? But if you really want it, it's worth fighting for.
Yes.
And so I would say finding you a community of folks and then getting really quiet with yourself. So if I could say, what could you do for more to exist in 21 days? Every day, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning for the next 21 days.
Wow.
Wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I want you to, before you turn on your phone or turn on the news, to sit with yourself. Write out 5 things you're grateful for today. Write out 5 things you're praying for today. And write out what you see for your life today. And then get you a devotional or however you surrender to whatever your higher power is, and then write out your prayers. 21 days, do it. 5 o'clock in the morning, choose you first before the noise. And I guarantee you're going to get clarity around your more.
Wow. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Marty McDonald. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And with that being said, all of her information will be in the description down below, along with the link to pre-order her book, Audacious. You guys will not want to miss that, and make sure that you check out her socials. All her platforms will be in the description box below. And with that being said, do not forget that I love you and God loves you, and I will speak to you, beautiful angels, in my next podcast episode. Mwah.